Hello, everyone. This is Greg Aiden with another episode of Servant Leadership Podcast. And today I have a very special guest coming to us from north of the border. Marisol Ortiz resides in Calgary, Canada. And good afternoon to you, Marisol. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for asking, Greg. And
Good.
it's a pleasure for me being today with you. Yeah.
It's my pleasure. We're going to chat with you today a little bit about what you do and where you've come from, but I really want to focus in on the what you do and the why, and why do you do what you do. So, in brief, I know you're in change management. You've had a significant amount of roles around leadership and development and organizational change management, but in layman's terms, what does all that mean, and how did you get involved in such a specific part of the career?
Yeah, so my background is I am psychologist and I have a master degree in organizational development. So I firmly believe that I can contribute to organizations to achieve their full potential when you are working with the leadership level and also when you are providing tools to navigate change, right?
Hmm.
So basically my motivation is contribute to the development for individuals and also for organizations. Mhm.
So when you decided to go out and get a degree, and you are a psychologist, as you mentioned, what was it about change management specifically that was interesting to you? And I know how you can contribute, but what was it about change management that was really interesting to you?
Personally, I've been involved in many changes. So I've been working with
Oh,
around 20 organizations. I've been living in 3 different countries. I've been studying in 4 different universities. So I think that I've been
hmm,
exposed personally to
sure.
different environments and peoples and cultures. And for that reason, I feel that it's amazing the opportunities that you can discover when you assume the challenge to navigate different waters or in a different environment where you feel comfortable, right?
Hmm,
So
yeah,
you have the opportunity to take the risk to explore. You always find treasures and you always find, the dark and the light, right? So it's
yeah.
amazing that you can have the opportunity to navigate different areas and explore different environments. So for that reason, I am pro change
Yeah,
naturally, right? So I
yeah.
think for that part, because it's something that I really manage in an effective way, I decide, intentionally contribute to reinforce that capacity or capability in others, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I mean, you've said so many things there around risk and the treasure and exploring and comfortable. And when I think of change, I think of people who address change or seek change. They know they're going to be uncomfortable for a little while. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you find what you really are looking for if you are always staying in the same place? So um, tell us a little bit about your personal story around change, the places you've lived, the companies you've worked for. What was behind some of the decisions to not just stay in one place and quote unquote be comfortable?
Yeah, I think that the point is that you have the opportunity in the life to extend your horizons, right? If you can live your entire life in one organization, right? Or in one community, in one country. So you can put it at an individual or at professional level. But in any case, there is a challenge always when a person offers you another opportunity, right? And there are individuals that rather stay in only one environment, and there are others that rather, move on in different areas. Those that move on, you usually call them early adopters, right? And those who stay, who rather be, laggards and wait that the change happen and then go on and move on, are different styles to react. The important piece, Greg, is that you understand that all of us have a way and a style to assume change. And we need to know it to be able to manage in a better way that change for your own beneficial, right?
Yeah. I mean, personalizing it like you just suggested is we all have that understanding or knowledge or the potential for change. And what and again, from a psychologist's point of view, I'm certainly not one. So I'm asking you, how does one know, how does their body or their heart or their soul or their mind tell the individual, hey, Greg, hey, Marcel, it's time for change? When do we know that? When do we feel it? What happens?
One interesting way is, look your history and think about how you react in the past.
Hmm.
Because the best predictor for the future is your past reactions, right? So
Yeah.
you can start analyzing, okay, when was the last change that I experienced in any scenario, right? Personal or an organizational level. And then you can think about the style that you use on that occasion. What are the worst parts that you are afraid of? Because change, Greg, is always about emotions. And when you talk about emotions, you can say, a superficial analysis or go down and say, oh, what is behind that? Is job security? Is because I am afraid because I am old? Is
Mhm.
because I am afraid because I'm going to be replaced by a new talent in the organization? So you need to be honest with yourself and reflect on that and
Yeah.
define the style that you use. And depending on that, you can define a plan to overcome the challenges that you
Y-
see behind the change, right?
Wow, you make it seem so, I don't want to say simple, but clear. You're so concise with how we, as you said, our experiences are our best gauges as to, what kind of decisions we want to make again, or perhaps avoid. And I also heard you mention safe. I mean, there's a lot of us that want to play it safe and just stay comfortable. I, for one, am not. I didn't want to be safe anymore. It wasn't that I wanted to take a huge risk, but I realized, to your point, I looked at my past experiences and said, I don't want to repeat all of those behaviors.
Mhm.
I want to seek out something different. And so, yeah. So let's take the psychology of what you've just described and apply it to leadership or teams or organizational change. How do you, when you're inside an organization, who are you traditionally working with or for, and what does that work look like?
When you talk about organizational change, usually you are talking about, a strategy, right? What is behind, where you are with the organization and where you would like to be. Usually organization use change as a way of innovate the way they work, right? So it's for introducing new practices or new products or new services, right? So in this context, you use as a reference the future that you would like to achieve and how you can, how you need to move the organization from the present situation to the future. The point is that you need all the leaders at the organization that that they buy in the initiative or the project or the effort that you are doing together in order to achieve that success. So from leadership perspective, the option to be, you know, an early adopter or an, laggard is more the majority of the curve. All the leaders must be there no matter their opinion in relation with the change. So as a leader, you can disagree about what the organization is deciding to go to because maybe you think that this is not the solution of the problem that they would like to overcome. But as a leader, you have a team, and the team look always for you. They are looking for a role model. They are
Mm.
following your lead. So you must to take the time to assume the change and then move on to support all the people around you in order that the change could be feasible.
Wow. Again, just so eloquently described, because there's lots and lots of organizations that wake up and things are significantly different for whatever reason. And obviously, the last 2.5 years, we've been working with something called COVID, and that significantly changed not only the way organizations communicate, but the way they behave. And for right or for wrong, we all had to make some changes. Did you see your work and your involvement with organizations skyrocket with COVID, or have you just been steady with what you have been doing over the past 2.5 years?
No, I think that, COVID is a great, put us the future in the present in
Sure.
just, you know, in just a quick moment. Overnight, we have the future in the present right now. And I think it happened the same with all the process that are related with human resources, our human capital, the name that you use in your organization. But all the process have been, running really fast. In the
Yeah.
case of change management, the demand came also related with digital
Yep.
practices. And those digital practices, is impressive because they highlight all the technology, Greg, but at the same time, they also highlight the human component. So now you hear more than ever listen about change saturation, change fatigue.
Mhm.
People are exhausted, right, and overwhelmed. So there are many situations that all of them are pointing to the fast pace that we have with the change recently after
Yeah.
COVID. So I think that we have, on steroids
Yeah.
mode, right? So
Yeah.
more or less. And that's required that you have more than ever at leadership level the capacity of change and mutate and evolve, not only for survive the present moment, for succeed in the future.
Right.
Because now we are lowering the volume of COVID, but we are increasing the volume of inflation. And we are also talking about, now is I don't know, the monkeypox. So
Right.
now you have different disruptions, but all of them impact the way that you work.
Mhm.
So you have to, the work. You have many variables now that are touching and also require your capacity to navigate fluently
Yeah.
those waters, right? So you need to change and being able to change yourself and change also others around you. Mhm.
When you hear me say that organizations, regardless of what's going on in the world, COVID, monkeypox, the war, recession, um, would you agree, Marisol, that the need or the desire to change is similar to being adaptive to what's going on around you without following the leader, perhaps in your space? How does that sound to you, that your organizations must stay adaptive? And when you hear that, what does that mean to you and your work relative to change management?
Yeah, it is the goal that we would like to achieve, right? When you are talking about changing, you are talking about embrace something that is not a reality yet, but is something that can bring you good things. So I think that at the end, Greg, at the end, we are talking about say a new state of being that is not yet real, but is gonna be good for you, right? So you have to have the hope and the trust in that the people that direct the organization, they know where they are going and they need you on the same path in order to be successful in the future.
Yeah, I believe the way we communicate with one another is constantly changing. And I've seen people
Mhm.
get frustrated with, well, I want to be more in person. And then I've had others that say, I kind of like hiding in my own home, being on Zoom every once in a while, dressed from the waist up. And it always takes me back to, no matter if I'm on the phone or I'm on Zoom or I'm in person, I believe that the best way to communicate is as authentically and being as present as you possibly can, listening and with your eyes too. One of my favorite phrases. Where do you see the change in communication moving relative to where we are today? And like you said, the future is now in the present. Where do you see some of the larger or biggest changes relative to how we communicate?
I think that we are, practicing right now and learning together on this new way of doing and working, right?
Mm.
So I think that we are trying different uh, ways of doing that. I am noticing that we are trying to combine, the best of all worlds. So you have face-to-face experience, but at the same time you can do, remotely. I mean, trying to find. There is, that for me, Greg. I was always thinking, oh, the human being is amazing, right?
Yeah.
When everything started, all the people was talking about, that we cannot be in confinement, right? We cannot be isolated because we are human. We need to touch, we need to see eye to eye and not a screen to a screen, right? But now we are talking about the cabin syndrome, that the people that is in the house, they don't want to go out. So before we were struggling, we adapted to be isolated, and now we are struggling to go back again to the workplace, right? So I
Yeah.
think that we are moving and try everything. I think it's hard to say which one will be the best way to be.
Yeah.
I think that we need to wait a little bit to see what is finally steady, because all the scientifics told about the human need of being connected, of
Right.
being, person to person, right?
Yeah.
The reality. But also you are in comfort at home. So
Yeah.
it's another piece, right?
Yes. And being comfortable in the way you communicate and conduct business, I believe, is one topic.
Mhm.
Being comfortable where you're almost too comfortable, it might take you a long time to possibly get back to the levels in which you were performing. I'm just throwing that out there. I have several clients where they really struggled with getting people back to work. And my question was, did they stop working or did they just stop coming into the office, into these beautiful, expensive office buildings? And it's really the latter. But I believe we can be just as efficient face to face as we can, like how you and I are communicating right now, as long as we have the kind of the communication protocol. When do we send an email? How do we send an email? What do we use text for?
Mm.
What meetings that we join, we don't even know who's leading it and there's no agenda. Now, you can't blame that on COVID, right? So, what are your next steps? What do you see next for you, Marisol, in your work, and where do you see most of your work coming from in the next year or two?
Now I am really fascinated about the future, and I think it's a little bit reactive to the situation that we are living now, because all this enormous progress and abrupt progress put me to think about what about the future,
Mhm.
right? So now I am researching a lot about the trends and trends about the workplace, how the workplace will be in the future, how the human are going to be feeling on that new environment and on that new way of interact, and how be human in all this digital reality, right? I mean,
Yep.
how you can maintain your essence as individual and your challenges or accept the future in this new technology, explosive world, right? So I
Yeah.
think those are my areas of interest that I would like to explore, and I am, reviewing some authors related with that. Mhm.
Well, I'm glad you're very interested and committed to the future because that, in my opinion, keeps us on the edge of our seat, our chair, for what's next. How can we thrive instead of just be comfortable? And how do we continue to behave as humans? I love the way you use the word human because too many times we get caught up in what do you do, meaning what's your title? How long have you worked somewhere? What is your position? And
Mm.
it's not that I don't care, Marisol, about the title. I get real tired of hearing the non-human response to what is it that you enjoy about your job. And that's so then that gets to the why. But if you just start talking about what you do and your title and how long you've worked somewhere, I can get that on LinkedIn. I can see that on your business card. I want to know, what is the why of people? And in your space, I just think it's going to be, well, I don't think, I believe it's going to be really exciting to see how your professional career, and not only that, but all those that are in change management. As I was putting together my last conference, I got connected with a huge group of people in the change management space, and I became fascinated with it. And I know in the past, it was kind of a little bit of a buzzword, change management, but I'm looking for something around the phrase change leadership. And I'm going to leave you with this question. When I hear management, Marisol, I think of manager or management of a process. When I think of leader, I think of someone who leads other human beings. Is there such a thing of change leadership where we need to change the way we lead our organizations, change the way we show up for ourselves and others? And is there any merit to that in your heart?
I think that, the way that the form that you use to lead other is changing and is evolving, right?
Mm.
And that's why I mentioned, in the digital times, living digital times, it has also involved a really important, emphasis on the human component of the relation. So you notice that now organizations are spending time and effort on understand the well-being, the work-life balance. I mean, there are
Yeah.
many human aspects that now are on the table in order to support human on this abrupt transition to digital reality, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the style that you leader and the style that you use when you are connecting with others in order that they can achieve their potential must be different. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly, the amount, but because again, I think that we are in the middle of the transition right now. But for sure, the capacity that you have as human being to understand the change on you and the capacity and the ability that you have to accept the new realities and the new ways. And the way to support others is a critical component in order to successfully navigate these times. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of reflection related with in order to transfer those reflection in actions, right?
Yeah. Again, beautiful. And I'll just say that what I heard is the continue to focus on have the emphasis on the human component, change the way you're willing to lead, or the way you are leading now. And I also heard you say that if we're able to look inside ourselves and be able to, or comfortable, or willing to change, I believe that the people we lead will also be more comfortable sharing how they want to be led.
Mm-hmm.
And as we move through these uncertain times, and if there's anything about the times that they're certainly uncertain, and it's kind of fun, to be honest with you. I'm going to be 60 next month, and I've been through a significant part of my life relative to my career. And I believe in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been the most fun because I've reached out with more new people, more new connections than I have in the 16 years prior, other than the people that were in my regular job. So I'm excited about change. I'm relatively fearless anyway, but I'm really excited about where businesses are going to go and what pivots they're going to make, and when will they double down on the human component, frankly. Because
Mm-hmm.
last I looked, you can't do anything without people. And last I also looked, there's nothing more important than a relationship with another human being relative to get something done and succeeding together. So with that, Marisol, what are your last few words if you wanted to share something about your space with those listening?
Mm. I was thinking that if I can transfer or communicate something that could be helpful for the people that are listening this conversation, is that when you are changing, I would like that you have the faith, the trust, and the hope that the things are gonna be evolving for good and for better, and you always will find a way to deal with that. No
Mm.
matter at first when you listen that, you think, oh, my life is ending. Despite that, I mean, if you remove that piece
Yeah.
and then you focus on the things, you will always find a way to deal yourself and to help others to deal with, right?
Love
So
it.
is something that I think is really important that we understand because the change is going to be happening there with
Yeah.
or without you, right?
Yeah.
So our choice is being part of that and have a
Mm.
voice and comment and contribute and collaborate, right? And help others to be with you on the same task.
Yeah.
I think is I don't know my 2 cents related with. Mhm.
Beautiful. Well, you've used a lot of my favorite words: faith, trust, hope. Find a
Oh,
way. Always find a way to make it better with yourself, a relationship, your organization, your team. Always find a way to look up and keep your eyes open and keep your eye on what it is you said was important, and just love it.
there
Marisol,
is
I go ahead.
no only 1 second. There is a comic that I found recently, and it's really funny. It is is caveman using something with squares. Where are the wheels? And
Oh,
they say we have a lot of work. And someone came with a new the rounded in order to keep going with the car. They say no 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 no. We are so busy we cannot use it. And you don't figure it out. That is if you use the other one, the new one, it will be much better. But you are focused on doing the things in the same way again and again, right?
yeah.
So it's really funny, but human. We are in that way, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and probably a whole nother podcast, but when someone says, no, that's not the way we've always done it, the square wheels are fine. But they're not even looking at the suggestion is about getting to a new place, change the location, not physically perhaps, but yeah, we need to lighten up, and we do need to laugh at the people before us. And there's a lot of great ideas out there. And all I say to the listeners all the time is be curious, ask a lot of questions. Seek people that are more intelligent or more insightful than you are. And typically, when I ask questions, it's coming from a place of authenticity. I am curious. I don't know the answer, but my chair as a leadership coach is to share your intelligence, your experiences, Maricel, with my listeners, and somehow possibly open up a relationship with someone listening with you, and everyone can find you on LinkedIn, Marisol Ortiz. Um, just a delightful human being. I'm glad you came into my life, and I appreciate your time today. And with that, I will remind everybody, when you're thinking about change and change management or change leadership or any change in your life, as Marisol said, keep the faith, keep the hope, and keep the trust. You can always find a way to get through anything. So with that, Marisol, thank you again for being my guest today, and for to all those listening, stay good, stay kind, stay considerate. God bless.